different types of tissues: epithelial, muscle, connective, and nervous. We are focusing on epithelial.
Today we're going to be talking about epithelial tissue. There are 4 types of epithelial tissue: protection, permeability, sensation, and secretion. We're going to start with protection. Protection protects from abrasion, dehydration, or destruction from chemical or biological agents.
We use shields like these in class to protect us from COVID-19.
Next we have permeability. That controls what comes in and out of the cell.
Permeability: my strainer won't let the Rice Krispies pass through.
Sensation detects the changes in the environment.
So the functions of tissues is sensation. I can feel this water is very hot. Now I can feel the water is very cold.
And lastly, we have secretion. Secretion is the production and release of a substance in a gland or a cell.
For secretion, we have this water pit. See, all the liquid coming out.
Now we're off to characteristics. There are 5 characteristics of epithelial tissue. 1, they are bound closely together. They are exposed to the environment. They attach to connective tissue. There are absence of blood vessels, and there is continual replacement of cells.
These pencils are bound closely together by this rubber band, just like epithelial tissue is bound very close together. Epithelial tissue has an apical surface which is exposed to the environment, kind of like the surface, this outer hard edge of the pineapple is an apical surface exposed to the environment. Epithelial tissue is connected to a basement membrane, kind of like how these stairs connect the rest of my house to the basement. Epithelial tissue is avascular, meaning there's an absence of blood vessels, kind of like this cheese stick that also has no blood vessels. When I cut into the piece of cheese, it doesn't bleed because there are no blood vessels, like epithelial tissue. Epithelial tissue has a continual regeneration of cells so that they replace the damaged or lost cells, kind of like our hair. This is all the dead hair I pulled out of my brush, and our body is always regenerating hair cells, so that's why we're not bald.
Now on to intercellular connections. CAMs, also known as cell adhesion molecules, bind to each other in extracellular materials.
CAMs. This notebook has the little bind to bind every single piece of paper together.
Next we have tight junctions. Tight junctions are lipid layers of adjacent membranes that interlock together.
Tight junctions. I'm tying my shoe together to keep it nice, tight, and in place.
Adhesion belt. Adhesion belt forms a band that encircles cells and binds to its neighbors.
For adhesion belt, we are going to tie these 2 pencils together. And now there's a little belt to hold it.
And then we have gap junctions. Gap junctions are held together by embedded proteins.
An example for gap junctions is this ring inside my hand, and this is going to allow small things like this earring to pass through.
Desmosomes allow cells to stretch, bend, twist, and compress. Next we have spot desmosomes and hemidesmosomes. Spot desmosomes form small discs, and hemidesmosomes are half of the spot desmosome and attached to the basement membrane.
So for desmosomes, we have slime because you can stretch it and you can twist it and compress it. And then you have spot desmosomes, which are small discs, and then you have hemidesmosomes, and that connects it to the basement membrane.
Microvilli covers the surface when secretion and absorption takes place, and cilia moves across the surface.
Microvilli and cilia work just like my hair because it pushes all the dead skin cells and stuff, and it comes out of my hair pores and it grows more hair.
There are 2 types of layers when it comes to epithelial tissue. There is simple and there's stratified. Simple is 1 layer while stratified is 2. There are also 5 types. There is columnar, cuboidal, squamish, pseudostratified, and transitional.
This is one type of epithelial, which is simple cuboidal. The main function is secretion and absorption. It is found in the glands, the kidney tubules, and ovaries. This is a simple squamous epithelial. Its function is diffusion and filtration. It is found in the lungs, the walls of the capillaries, and the vessels. This is a simple columnar epithelial. Its main function is absorption. It lines the uterus and most other organs of the digestive tract. This is a stratified cuboidal epithelial. Its main function is protection. It lines the ducts of the mammary glands, the sweat glands, and the pancreas. This is a stratified squamous epithelial. Its main function is to protect underlying cells. It is found in the skin and throat and vagina and mouth, typically. This is a stratified columnar epithelial tissue. Its main function is protection and secretion. It is found in the male urethra and other parts of the pharynx. This is a pseudostratified columnar epithelial. Its main function is for removing dust and particles from the airway. It has cilia and it lines the respiratory passageways. This is a transitional epithelial. It is specialized to become distended, and some places that a transitional epithelial is found is in the urinary tract.
Now we're moving on to endocrine and exocrine. Endocrine is released into surrounding tissue fluids and blood. These are hormones that act as chemical messengers that regulate or coordinate activities of tissues, organs, or systems. These are produced by the pancreas, thyroid, and pituitary glands.
For endocrine, we are putting food coloring inside the water. You can see it mixes all the way down.
Exocrine is discharged onto the surface of the epithelium. Exocrine occurs when enzymes enter the digestive tract, perspiration on the skin, or milk produced from mammary glands.
Exocrine glands are just like a sponge. They produce things like sweat, saliva, milk, tears, and just like all the water in a sponge, it all comes out.
Merocrine. Merocrine is where particles of the cells come off during secretion, and it's fluid. This can occur with salivary glands, pancreas, and sweat glands.
Sweat is an example of a merocrine secretion.
Apocrine. Apocrine is where parts of the cell come off during secretion. It's cellular, it's thicker than merocrine. This occurs in mammary glands and ceruminous glands.
Mammary milk or breast milk is an example of an apocrine secretion.
Holocrine. Holocrine is the whole cell. The whole cell comes off during secretion. It is a secretory product, and it occurs in sebaceous glands.
The base of our hair follicles are called the sebaceous glands. This is what releases the oils of hairs, and this is an example of a holocrine secretion.